Martin, we really should have 3 hours. Not
Yeah, I
not
know,
half
I
an hour.
know.
But your war experience, you got taken prisoner.
Yeah. What actually happened was, the whole idea was to capture the bridge over the Rhine, so our troops from Nijmegen with the tanks can go into Germany and the war. The day we landed, the 17th, the welcome by the Dutch was absolutely unbelievable. We have come to free us, we're free, we're liberated. It lasted about 1 or 2 days, and then reality set in. The next group that came was some of the Polish gliders, and they were really smashed to pieces. In fact, I carried in my glider some of the top Polish officers. Now, we were supposed to hold out for 2 days, and we were told by the 3rd day we will be joined with us. 4th day, 5th day, 6th day. Every bombardment killed 50 or 60 or 70, whatever. We had nothing, no food left, no morphine for the wounded. And people were screaming with pain. So on the 7th day, a young lieutenant asked me, why don't you go to the Hotel Hartenstein where the officers are and find out what's happening? I'd left the trench maybe 20 seconds when tank shells hit the trench, probably killing everybody. And the blast picked me up, turned me around, and smashed me against a tree. And I heard somebody scream, it was me, because my right arm was broken right in half, my right thigh was sticking out, and I became unconscious. Finally, I heard somebody say, I saw 2 medics with long sticks. They went into the trenches to see whether anybody was alive. And they came to me and they said, hey, this kid is still with us. So they put some wooden splints on my arm and my head, and they took me to a makeshift hospital. I lay down next to a guy who lost his left leg, and so hundreds of dead people lying around. And the guy said to me, don't fall asleep, because if you do, you'll never wake up. And I said to him, you know what? If we stay here, we're going to die. Why don't we make it to the German lines? What can happen? The worst, they'll kill us. We're going to die anyhow. So we started to crawl towards the German lines, but then, unbeknownst to us, an armistice had been arranged for 3 hours.
I see.
So the Germans picked us up and put us in a truck, and they drove us through the streets of Arnhem. The sights there were horrible. Do you remember I told you how the Dutch tried to get us help, give us food and water? What happened? Dozens of them were hanging by their necks on wires strung across the street.
Wow.
And with the faces already black. They wouldn't let them cut down, because this is what happens to traitors and collaborators. So it took them 3 days, just one fast incident. It took 60 of us to Apeldoorn to the SS barracks, and one night 2 SS officers came in, one said to the other one, we're going to kill them tonight. So the other one said, don't be stupid, in 6 months they'll be in Berlin. Anyhow, they put us on the train to Hanover 11B prisoner war camp, and on May the 1st, 1945, we were liberated.
I want to go back to the recent experience you have in returning to Holland.
Right.
This is over
65 years ago.
later.
Okay. I went to the 60th when 1,500 went. Unfortunately, this time we were about 13, mostly widows, many and grandchildren who came, and maybe 150 veterans. Like from the day we arrived, you wouldn't believe it.
This is your return to Holland?
My return to Holland, as if we had liberated them yesterday. They had put a big hall up. They called it Canada Club, and at night we went there. Many visitors came. People came up and said, I have a photograph. I know exactly where your glider landed. I have a photograph of the little hospital where you were wounded. You know, they came from all over just to say, drinks, you could drink forever. Okay, now I want to describe the big parade, honestly, which was the most amazing thing.
With huge numbers.
102 vehicles, tanks, and other people, you know, old World War II jeeps. It was really cold, but we sat there. It was like more than 100,000 people lined a 3/4 of a mile route. There would have been more, but they rushed ahead. They wanted to go into the new sports palace that had been built. It only held 5,000. The fire department closed their eyes. There were over 10,000 in there. And I tell you, when we marched in, the veterans, it was the most unbelievable thing. And I was given the great honor to hand over the torch of freedom from my generation, the veterans, to the young next generation. His name was Waylon. He's a very famous rock singer in Europe. He just signed a contract with Motown. It was a really most amazing. But the one I want to describe is the farewell. When we lined up, wheelchairs first, maybe 50 wheelchairs, maybe 120 veterans. The 10,000 people stood up, waved Canadian and Dutch flags, and they sang, "We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when." I wrote a column every day in the newspaper. My Dutch isn't that good. I dictate it and they translate it. Right. And they asked me, would you please come back in 5 years' time? And I said, I will try. But if we can, you're always in our hearts. In any case, I'm 86 years old. I don't even buy green bananas. So that was my it was a most amazing experience, yeah.
Well, I want to, and I mean, I could go on and on. I mean,
yeah, well, I usually speak 45 minutes.
In the cemetery.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God,
no, I mean, the stories you have could go on and on.
Yeah, I usually speak 45 minutes in a church or a school and 10 minutes questions.
Martin, what sort of feedback do you get from some of these students?
First of all, very often we get many questions. Many people thank us, the teachers thank us, but the most important is the letters we get from the students themselves.
They write you?
Yes, I spoke at Cedar Brae on June the 2nd. Yesterday I opened an envelope that came by special delivery with 30 letters. I have one letter that I want to read, if I may, because this one really touched me. June the 5th. Dear Mr. Maxwell, hi, my name is Sharika, and I'm a grade 10 student at Cedar Brae.
What's his name?
Sharika.
Oh, I see.
May I start by saying it was an honor to be in your presence. You really are a hero. It was a privilege to be able to hear you speak. Mr. Maxwell, you brought everything that I read in my history textbook to life. I can read my history book cover to cover, do a lot of online research, and hear my teacher teach in the classroom, but that does not compare to actually seeing and having a real-life person who actually experienced what I'm learning about. Sometimes it is hard to believe all the horrible things that happened to your people. I question God and how this could have all happened. Despite that fact, Mr. Maxwell, you inspire me. You went through it and you survived. When I complain about challenges I face in my own life, I don't think it can ever compare what you have been through. I want to say thank you. Thank you for fighting for freedom, and thank you for sharing your story. Your bravery is commendable. Might I add also that you look so young to be the age that you are. I hope that more youth will hear your story and realize what we read in the textbooks is real and involves real human beings just like us. I remember you said that you share your story because you want my generation and the ones after to know the truth. I promise when I'm older and I have children that I will share with them your story and that I actually met someone who was there. Once again, I just want to say thank you and wish you the best in continuing to make your story heard. Signed, Sharika Bennett.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
It's very moving.
I felt that I'm just not going to speak, that students appreciate what I tell them, and they will pass this on. And I also usually say, when you see an injustice done, have the courage to stand up and speak out.
With that,
and many of them, they promised.
With that, I'm going to say thank you, and thank you for all your speaking and for being on the program.
Thank you for having me here.
Next week, Rami Akalan of the Lautenberg Center for Immunology at Hebrew U explains gene suppression. Otherwise, body defects result. Is there a parallel issue in society? Is suppression a necessary mechanism for preventing anarchy? What about terrorists? What about Iraq? Join us next week for our explorations of suppression and memory in the physical body and the body politic. I'm biased, of course, but I thought that was a terrific show. We do try to bring you the best in informative and educational programming on Israel and the Jewish world. If you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, please drop us a line. Become a member and support our programming. Join now. I hope you'll tune in next week. I'm Howard Edelman. Good night until then.